On a cold December morning in Kansas City, the Arrowhead Stadium parking lot was nearly empty. The only sounds were the distant hum of traffic and the occasional car door slamming as the last few staff members headed home after the early morning practice session. Travis Kelce walked slowly toward his black Range Rover, his breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. His muscles ached from the intense training session, but his mind was elsewhere, thinking about the upcoming playoff games and the pressure that came with being one of the most recognizable faces in the NFL. As he fumbled for his car keys, something caught his eye near the dumpster beside the staff parking area. A crumpled piece of paper lay on the wet asphalt, partially hidden beneath a pile of fallen leaves. Most people would have walked past without a second glance, but Travis noticed something that made him pause. Written across the wrinkled paper in faded blue ink were the words, "For Travis Kelce," in what appeared to be a child's handwriting. Curiosity overcame his initial reluctance to pick up trash from the ground. Travis bent down and carefully lifted the soggy paper, unfolding it with gentle hand. The letter was written on lined school paper, the kind with the wide margins that elementary students use when they are first learning to write. The ink had run in several places due to moisture, but the words were still legible. "Dear Travis Kelce," the letter began, "my name is Madison, and I am 8 years old. I live in Kansas City with my mom and my little brother Ethan. I have been watching you play football since I was 5, and you are my favorite player in the whole world. My mom says you are the best tight end who ever lived, and I believe her because she knows everything about football." Travis smiled as he read the opening line, touched by the innocent admiration of a young fan. But as he continued reading, his expression began to change. The letter took a turn that he was not expecting. "I am writing this letter because I do not know who else to tell about what is happening to my family. My mom has been sick for a very long time, and the doctors say she has something called cancer. I do not really understand what that means, but I know it makes her very tired and sad all the time. She tries to hide it from me and Ethan, but I can hear her crying at night when she thinks we are asleep." Travis felt his heart begin to race as he read those words. He looked around the empty parking lot, suddenly feeling very alone with this child's confession. He continued reading, each word hitting him like a physical blow. "We do not have very much money because my mom cannot work anymore. Sometimes we do not have enough food, and our electricity got turned off last week. My mom sold her wedding ring and her car to pay for her medicine, but it is still not enough. She says we might have to move to a place called a shelter, but I do not want to leave Kansas City because this is where you play football, and watching your games on TV is the only thing that makes my mom smile." And the letter went on to describe how Madison had been writing letters to various Chiefs players, hoping that someone might be able to help her family. She had sent dozens of letters to the team's official address, but had never received a response. This particular letter, she explained, was her last attempt. She had walked to the stadium with her little brother, hoping to hand-deliver it to someone who might actually read it. "I know you probably get a lot of letters from kids like me," Madison wrote, "and I know you are very busy being famous and playing football, but if you ever read this, I just want you to know that you and the Chiefs are the only good thing left in our life right now. When you score a touchdown, my mom claps her hands and forgets about being sick for a few minutes. When you do your funny dance, even Ethan laughs, and he has not laughed very much lately." Travis had to stop reading for a moment. His hands were shaking, and he felt tears beginning to form in his eyes. He looked back at the dumpster where he had found the letter, realizing that this child had come all the way to the stadium, only to have her heartfelt plea thrown away garbage. The thought made him feel sick to his stomach. He forced himself to continue reading the final paragraph of the letter. "I do not know if this letter will ever reach you, but I wanted to tell you that you are my hero, not because you are famous or because you win games, but because you always seem happy and kind on TV. My mom says that real heroes are people who help others when they do not have to. If you are reading this, maybe you could help us, or maybe you could just say a prayer for my mom. I do not need anything for myself, but I would do anything to see my mom get better. Thank you for reading my letter. I love you and the Chiefs forever. Love, Madison." At the bottom of the letter, in smaller handwriting, was an address in one of Kansas City's most economically disadvantaged neighborhoods. There was also a phone number, written in the same careful script. Travis stood in the empty parking lot, holding the letter with trembling hand. The cold December wind whipped around him, but he barely noticed. All he could think about was this 8-year-old girl who had walked to the stadium with her sick mother and little brother, carrying her heart on a piece of paper, only to have it discarded like trash. He imagined her small face, full of hope, turning to disappointment when no one would take her letter serious. Without hesitation, Travis pulled out his phone and dialed the number written at the bottom of the page. As the phone rang, he paced back and forth beside his car, his mind racing with thoughts of what he would say to this child and her family. This was not just about football, and this was about humanity, about the responsibility that comes with being in a position to help others. Travis Kelce was about to embark on a journey that would change not only his own life, but the lives of countless others who would hear Madison's story. The phone rang 3 times before a weak, tired voice answered. "Hello?" The voice was clearly that of an adult woman, but it sounded exhausted and strained, as if speaking required enormous effort. "Hello," Travis said, his voice catching slightly. "Is this Madison's mother? My name is Travis Kelce, and I found a letter that your daughter wrote to me." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Travis could hear muffled sounds in the background, what sounded like a television playing cartoons and a small child giggling. Finally, the woman spoke again, her voice filled with disbelief. "I'm sorry, did you say Travis Kelce, the football player?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, as if she was afraid that speaking too loudly might break whatever spell had brought this moment into existence. "Yes, ma'am. I'm calling because I found Madison's letter in the parking lot at Arrowhead Stadium. Someone had thrown it away, but I picked it up and read it. I had to call you because what she wrote, it broke my heart. I need to help your family." Travis heard the woman begin to cry softly on the other end of the line. She tried to compose herself, but her voice was shaking when she spoke again. "Oh my God, I cannot believe this is real. Madison is going to be so happy. She has been talking about you non-stop since she mailed that letter last week. We thought maybe someone at the stadium had just thrown it away without reading it." "What's your name, ma'am?" Travis asked gently. Sarah Patterson. "And yes, Madison is my daughter. I had no idea she had written to you. She's been so worried about our situation, but I've been trying to protect her from the worst of it. I should have known she would try to reach out for help. She's always been too smart for her own good." Travis could hear the pride and pain in Sarah's voice as she spoke about her daughter. He closed his eyes and tried to imagine what this family was going through. The daily struggle of a single mother trying to battle cancer while raising 2 young children with no support system. "Sarah, I want you to know that Madison's letter was beautiful. She wrote about how much she loves you and her little brother, and how she just wants you to get better. She also wrote about your financial situation, and I want to help with that, if you'll let me. Mr. Kelce, I don't know what to say. This feels like a dream. We've been struggling so much lately, and I've been trying to figure out how to keep us together as a family. The medical bills are overwhelming, and I lost my job when I got too sick to work. I've been too proud to ask for help, but Madison, she's braver than I am." Travis felt a lump forming in his throat. "Sarah, there's no shame in needing help. We all need help sometime. I want to know more about your situation so I can figure out the best way to assist your family. Are you comfortable talking about your medical condition?" Sarah took a deep breath, and Travis could hear her gathering her strength to continue the conversation. "I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer 8 months ago. The doctors say the prognosis is good if I can complete my treatment, but the chemotherapy has made it impossible for me to work. I used to manage a small restaurant, but I kept getting too sick to come in. My boss was understanding at first, but eventually he had to replace me." "What about Madison's father? Is he in the picture?" "No," Sarah said quietly. "He left when Ethan was born. Said he couldn't handle the responsibility of 2 kids. I haven't heard from him since. It's just been the 3 of us for the past 4 years, and we were doing okay until I got sick." Travis felt anger rising in his chest at the thought of a man abandoning his family, but he pushed those feelings aside to focus on what mattered now. "What do you need most right now, Sarah? What would make the biggest difference for your family?" "Honestly, everything. Our rent is 3 months behind, and our landlord has been patient, but I know he can't wait much longer. Our utilities keep getting shut off because I have to choose between paying those bills and buying groceries. Madison School has a free lunch program, which helps. But dinner is often just whatever we can afford at the dollar store. And my medical treatments, they're so expensive even with the insurance I have through the state. As Sarah spoke, Travis was already making mental calculations. The amounts she was talking about were significant for a struggling family, but they represented pocket change to someone with his income. The fact that this family was suffering over what amounted to a few $1,000s seemed almost criminal to him. "Sarah, I want to take care of all of that for you. The rent, utilities, the medical bills, groceries, whatever you need. But more than that, I want to meet Madison and Ethan. Would it be okay if I came to visit you today?" There was another long pause, and Travis could hear Sarah crying again. When she finally spoke, her voice was filled with emotion. "Mr. Kelce, I don't know how to thank you. This is like a miracle. Madison is going to be so excited she might pass out. But are you sure? I mean, we're nobody special. We're just a regular family going through a hard time. Sarah, that's exactly why this matters. You're not nobody. You're a mother fighting for her life while trying to raise 2 kids on your own. Madison is a little girl who loves her family so much that she walked to a football stadium to ask for help. Ethan is a little boy who needs to see that there are good people in the world who care about kids like him. You're not nobody. You're everything." Travis could hear Madison's voice in the background, asking her mother who was on the phone. Sarah covered the receiver for a moment, and Travis could hear muffled conversation. Then Madison's voice came through clearly, sounding excited and confused. "Mom says Travis Kelce is on the phone, but that can't be real, right? People on TV don't call regular people like us." Travis smiled despite the tears that were now flowing freely down his face. "Madison, this is Travis Kelce, and I'm calling because I found your letter. I'm coming to visit you today, and I want you to know that you're the bravest little girl I've ever heard of. You're going to make an amazing grown-up someday." The scream of joy that came through the phone was so loud that Travis had to hold it away from his ear. In the background, he could hear Madison running around the house, shouting that Travis Kelce was on the phone, that he was coming to visit. The pure excitement in her voice was infectious, and Travis found himself grinning widely the first time since he had found the letter. "Give me your address again, Sarah," Travis said. "I'm coming over right now." Travis spent the 20-minute drive to the Patterson family's neighborhood, thinking about what he would say when he met them face to face. He had been in the public eye for years, accustomed to meeting fans and making appearances at charity events. But this felt different. This was personal in a way that nothing in his professional life had ever been. He was not showing up as Travis Kelce, the football star. He was showing up as Travis Kelce, the human being, responding to a cry for help from a child who had touched his heart. The address led him to a run-down apartment complex in one of Kansas City's most neglected neighborhoods. The building was a faded brick structure that had clearly seen better days. Several windows were boarded up, and the parking lot was full of potholes. Travis parked his Range Rover and immediately noticed how out of place it looked among the older, beat-up cars scattered throughout the lot. As he walked toward the building, Travis noticed a small face pressed against a second-floor window. The face disappeared quickly, and within seconds, he heard the sound of footsteps running downstairs. Before he could even reach the building's entrance, the front door burst open, and a small girl with shoulder-length brown hair came running toward him at full speed. "Travis! Travis! Oh my gosh, it's really you!" Madison shouted as she ran. She was wearing a Kansas City Chiefs jersey that was several sizes too big for her, and her sneakers were held together with duct tape, but her smile was brighter than any stadium lights Travis had ever seen. Madison threw her arms around Travis's waist and hugged him with the fierce intensity that only children possess. Travis knelt down to her level and hugged her back, struck by how small and fragile she felt in his arms. This was the brave little girl who had written that heartbreaking letter, and seeing her in person made her courage even more remarkable. "Madison, it's so good to meet you," Travis said, his voice thick with emotion. "You wrote me the most beautiful letter I've ever received in my entire life." "I can't believe you're really here," Madison said, her eyes wide with wonder. "I told all my friends at school that I wrote to you, but none of them believed me. Wait until I tell them you came to my house." A woman appeared in the doorway apartment building. moving slowly and carefully. Travis recognized Sarah Patterson immediately, even though she looked more frail than he had imagined from their phone conversation. She was clearly in her early 30s, but the illness and stress had aged her beyond her years. Her head was covered with a colorful scarf, and she wore loose-fitting clothes that seemed to hang on her thin frame. Despite her obvious physical struggles, she had a warm smile that reminded Travis immediately of Madison. "Mr. Kelce, still can't believe you're here," Sarah said as she approached them. "Madison has been running around the apartment getting ready for your visit, like she was preparing for Christmas morning. Please, call me Travis," he said, standing up, extending his hand to Sarah. "And thank you for letting me come. I know this is unusual, but Madison's letter really affected." Behind Sarah, a small boy peered around her leg, watching Travis' curious eyes. This had to be Ethan, Madison's 4-year-old brother. He was clutching a worn, stuffed animal and seemed much more shy than his outgoing sister. "Ethan, come say hi to Travis," Madison said, grabbing her little brother's hand and pulling him forward. "He's the one I told you about, the one who catches the football on TV." Ethan looked up at Travis with big brown eyes and waved shyly. "Hi," he said in a small voice. "Are you really famous?" Travis laughed and knelt down again so he could talk to Ethan at eye level. "I guess some people think I'm famous, but I'm just a regular guy who plays football. What's your favorite game to play?" "I like to throw the ball in the backyard," Ethan said, his shyness beginning to fade. "Madison taught me how, but I'm not very good yet." "Well, maybe I can give you some tips," Travis said. "I brought a football with me, if that's okay with your mom." Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she watched Travis interact with her children. "Of course it's okay. They would love that. Would you like to come upstairs? I'm sorry our place isn't much, but you're welcome to stay as long as you'd like." The Patterson family's apartment was small but clean, with furniture that had clearly been purchased second-hand but was well-maintained. Travis noticed immediately that the apartment was cold, and he remembered Sarah mentioning that their utilities had been shut off. The walls were decorated with Madison's artwork and school paper, and there were several family photos showing happier times before Sarah's illness. "Mom, can I show Travis my room?" Madison asked excitedly. "I have all my chief's stuff in there, and I made a poster about him for my school project." "Of course, sweetie," Sarah said. "Travis, would you like some water or coffee? I'm sorry I can't offer you more, but we're a little low on groceries right now." Travis felt his heart break a little more at Sarah's apologetic tone. No one should have to apologize for not being able to offer refreshments to a guest, especially when they were struggling just to feed their family. "Water would be great, thank you," he said simply. Madison grabbed Travis's hand and led him down a short hallway to a tiny bedroom that she clearly shared with her brother. The room contained a bunk bed, a small dresser, and not much else, but every inch of wall space was covered with Kansas City Chiefs memorabilia. There were newspaper clippings, printed photos from the internet, and hand-drawn pictures of players in action. "This is my favorite picture of you," Madison said, pointing to a photo that showed Travis celebrating a touchdown. "I cut it out of the newspaper after you won the big game last month. And this is the poster I made for school." The poster was created on a large piece of poster board, with "My Hero Travis Kelce" written across the top in colorful marker. Below the title, Madison had written a paragraph about why Travis was her hero, citing his athletic achievement, but also mentioning his charitable work and his positive attitude. At the bottom of the poster was a drawing of Travis in his Chiefs uniform, with Madison, Ethan, and Sarah cheering from the stand. "Madison, this is incredible," Travis said, genuinely impressed by the 8-year-old's artistic effort. "You're a really talented artist. Have you ever thought about taking art classes?" Madison's face fell slightly. "Mom says maybe someday when we have more money. Right now, we have to spend money on important stuff like medicine and food." Travis made a mental note to add art supplies and classes to his growing list of ways to help this family. He was beginning to realize that his assistance could go far beyond just paying their immediate bills. These kids had dreams and talents that deserved to be nurtured, but poverty was limiting their opportunities in ways that no child should have to experience. "Well, maybe we can figure something out," Travis said, "but first, how about we go outside and throw that football around? I think it's time for you and Ethan to learn some professional technique." The smile that spread across Madison's face was worth more to Travis than any touchdown he had ever scored. This was why he had become successful, he realized. Not just to win games or make money, but to be in a position to make a real difference in the lives of people who needed help. And this was only the beginning. The next 2 hours passed like a dream for the Patterson family. Travis spent time teaching Madison and Ethan how to properly throw and catch a football in the small courtyard behind their apartment building. Other residents began to gather around, initially skeptical that a famous NFL player was actually in their neighborhood, but quickly becoming believers as they watched Travis patiently work with the children. Madison proved to be a natural athlete, displaying coordination and focus that impressed Travis. Ethan, despite being only 4 years old, showed remarkable determination as he tried to mimic everything his sister and Travis were doing. Sarah watched from a plastic chair that Travis had carried down from the apartment, her face showing more joy than it had in months as she saw her children playing and laughing with such carefree abandon. "Mom, look!" Madison shouted as she successfully caught a pass from Travis. "I caught it just like the players on TV." "I saw, sweetheart," Sarah called back, clapping her hands. "You're going to be a professional football player someday." Travis noticed that Sarah's voice was getting weaker as the afternoon progressed, and he could see that she was exhausted despite her efforts to hide it. He made a mental note to wrap up the outdoor activities soon so she could rest. But first, he had something important to discuss with the family. "Madison, Ethan, come here for a minute," Travis said, gathering the children around him. "I want to talk to you and your mom about something very important." The family gathered in a small circle on the grass, with Sarah moving her chair closer to join them. Travis looked at each of them, taking a moment to appreciate the trust had shown him by welcoming him into their lives. "I want you all to know that meeting you today has been one of the most important days of my life," Travis began. "Madison, when you wrote that letter, you showed more courage than I've ever seen from someone your age. You put your family's needs before your own, and you reached out for help when your mom was too proud to ask for it herself." Madison blushed and looked down at her hands, clearly uncomfortable with the praise, but pleased nonetheless. "Sarah, you're raising 2 incredible kids while fighting the battle of your life," Travis continued. "What you're doing takes strength that most people don't possess. I want you to know that you're not alone in this fight anymore." Travis reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope that he had prepared during his drive to the apartment. Inside was a cashier's check that would cover the family's rent for an entire year, along with enough money to pay off their outstanding utility bill and medical debt. "This is for your immediate need," Travis said, handing the envelope to Sarah. "But I want to do more than just help you financially. I want to be part of your family's journey back to stability and health." Sarah opened the envelope with trembling hands, and when she saw the amount on the check, she gasped and nearly dropped it. "Travis, this is too much. I can't accept it. This is more money than I make in 2 years. "Yes, you can accept it," Travis said firmly but gently. "And you will accept it, because Madison and Ethan deserve to have a stable home while their mom gets better. This money means very little to me, but it means everything to your family's future." Travis turned to address Madison directly. "Madison, I want to make you a promise. I'm going to make sure that you and Ethan have everything you need to succeed in life. That means not just food and shelter, but also opportunities to pursue your dream. I noticed your artwork upstairs, and I think you have real talent. How would you feel about taking art class?" Madison's eyes went wide. "Really? Real art classes with a real teacher?" "Real art classes with a real teacher," Travis confirmed. "And Ethan, when you get a little older, if you want to play football or try any other sport, I'll make sure you have that opportunity too." "What about college?" Madison asked suddenly. "My teacher says college is really expensive, and that's why some smart kids can't go. Will I be able to go to college?" Travis felt his heart swell with pride at Madison's question. Even at 8 years old, she was thinking about her future education. "Madison, I promise you that if you keep working hard in school and continue to be the amazing person you already are, you will absolutely go to college. Both you and Ethan will have that opportunity." Sarah was crying openly now, covering her face with her hand as the reality of what Travis was promising began to sink in. "I don't understand why you're doing this for us," she said through her tears. "We're strangers. You don't owe us anything." Travis moved closer to Sarah and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Sarah, you're not strangers to me anymore. You're family, and family takes care of family. Besides, you're wrong about me not owing you anything. Madison's letter reminded me why I play this game in the first place. It's not about the fame or the money. It's about being in a position to make a difference in people's lives." He paused, gathering his thoughts, as he prepared to share something more personal. I grew up in a single-parent household too. My mom worked multiple jobs to keep us afloat, and there were times when we struggled financially. I remember what it felt like to worry about adult problems when I should have been focused on being a kid. I don't want Madison and Ethan to carry that burden. Travis stood up and looked at the small apartment building behind them, with its peeling paint and broken windows. An idea was forming in his mind, something bigger than just helping one family. "I have another idea," he said, turning back to the family. "What if we didn't stop with just helping your family? What if we used your story to help other families who are going through similar struggle?" Madison tilted her head, clearly curious about what Travis was thinking. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if we started a foundation together? The Madison Patterson Foundation for Families Fighting Cancer. We could help other kids whose parents are sick, and other parents who are struggling to take care of their families during medical crises." Sarah's hands flew to her mouth in shock. "You want to name a foundation after Madison? I want to name it after the little girl who had the courage to write a letter that changed my life," Travis said. "Madison, would you be interested in helping other families like yours?" Madison didn't hesitate for even a second. "Yes, I want to help other kids whose moms are sick. Maybe we can make sure their letters don't get thrown in the trash." Travis laughed, remembering how this entire journey had started with a discarded letter in a parking lot. "That's exactly what we'll do. We'll make sure that every child who needs help gets heard." As the sun began to set over Kansas City, Travis realized that this day had changed him in ways he was only beginning to understand. He had woken up that morning as a successful football player with a comfortable life. He was ending the day as someone with a mission that extended far beyond the football field. The Patterson family had given him something more valuable than any championship ring or individual award. They had given him purpose, and he was determined to spend the rest of his life proving worthy of the trust that an 8-year-old girl had placed in him when she wrote a letter and walked to a football stadium carrying her family's hope in her small hand. 3 months later, Travis Kelce stood on the stage of the Kansas City Convention Center, looking out at an audience of over 2,000 people who had gathered for the inaugural Madison Patterson Foundation Gala. The event had sold out within hours of tickets going on sale, with celebrities, business leaders, and ordinary citizens all coming together to support the cause that had grown from a simple letter found in a dumpster. At a table near the front of the room sat the Patterson family, looking almost unrecognizable from the struggling family Travis had met that cold December day. Sarah's cancer treatment was progressing better than anyone had dared to hope. The color had returned to her cheek. She was wearing a beautiful blue dress that Madison had helped her pick out, and her hair was growing back in soft curls beneath a stylish headband. Madison and Ethan were dressed in their finest clothes, sitting up straight and trying to contain their excitement as they watched Travis prepare to address the crowd. Madison wore a small corsage on her wrist, a gift from Travis to commemorate her role as the foundation's youngest board member and inspiration. "Ladies and gentlemen," Travis began, his voice carrying clearly throughout the large room. "3 months ago, I found a letter in a parking lot that changed my life forever. Tonight, I want to tell you about the incredible little girl who wrote that letter, and about the ripple effect that her courage has created." Travis went on to tell Madison's story, explaining how her selfless concern for her family had inspired him to look beyond his own comfortable life and consider how he could use his platform to help others. He spoke about the foundation's mission to assist families dealing with medical crises, and about the concrete steps they had already taken to make a difference. In just 3 months, the Madison Patterson Foundation has helped over 400 families across the country, Travis announced, and the audience erupted in applause. "We've paid medical bills, covered rent and utilities, provided groceries, and ensured that children like Madison and Ethan have access to educational opportunities that might otherwise be out of reach." What Travis didn't mention, but what everyone in the room knew, was that he had personally funded the foundation's startup costs and had committed to matching every dollar donated by others. His initial investment had been substantial, but the community response had been overwhelming. Donations had poured in from across the country as Madison's story spread through social media and news outlets. The foundation's work had expanded beyond financial assistance. They had partnered with hospitals to create family support programs, established scholarship funds for children from families affected by serious illness, and created a network of volunteers who provided practical assistance like childcare and transportation to medical appointments. But tonight isn't just about celebrating what we've accomplished, Travis continued. It's about recognizing the person who made it all possible. Madison Patterson, would you please come up here? Madison walked to the stage with confidence that had grown dramatically over the past few months. The shy, worried little girl who had written a desperate letter had transformed into a poised young lady who had already proven herself to be a natural advocate for families in need. "Hi, everyone," Madison said into the microphone, her voice clear and strong. "My name is Madison Patterson, and I want to tell you about the day I wrote a letter to Travis Kelce." The room fell completely silent as Madison began to speak. She told her story with a maturity that belied her 8 years, explaining how scared she had been when her mother got sick, and how she had decided to ask for help when she realized that her family was in trouble. "I walked to the football stadium with my little brother Ethan because I didn't know what else to do," Madison said. "I thought maybe if I could give my letter to someone important, they might help my mom get better. But when we got there, the security guard said I couldn't go inside, and he threw my letter in the trash." Madison paused, looking out at the audience of adults who were hanging on her every word. "I was really sad when that happened, because I thought that was my only chance to help my family. But sometimes good things happen when you least expect them. Travis found my letter and called us, and now look what we get to do together." She gestured toward a large screen behind her, which began displaying photos and videos from the foundation's work over the past 3 months. There were images of families receiving assistance, children playing in newly funded after-school programs, and parents attending support groups for families dealing with medical crises. "All of these families needed help, just like my family did," Madison continued. "But now they don't have to write letters and hope someone finds them in the trash. They can call our foundation, and we'll help them right away." Madison's presentation was followed by testimonials from several families who had been assisted by the foundation. Each story was unique, but they all shared common themes of struggle, fear, and ultimate hope. A single father whose wife had died of leukemia spoke about how the foundation had helped him keep his children in their family home. A grandmother who had taken custody of her grandchildren when their mother became ill described how the foundation's assistance had allowed her to provide stability during a chaotic time. As the evening progressed, it became clear that the Madison Patterson Foundation had tapped into something much larger than anyone had initially imagined. The need for this type of assistance was enormous, and the community's willingness to support it was equally impressive. The event's climax came when Travis announced that the foundation had received a surprise donation that would allow them to expand their work nationally. A tech billionaire who had been moved by Madison's story had pledged $10 million to establish Madison Patterson Foundation chapters in 50 cities across the United States. "Madison," Travis said, turning to the young girl who had started it all, "when you wrote that letter, you were trying to save your family. But what you actually did was start a movement that is going to save thousands of families." Madison smiled and stepped back to the microphone. "My mom always told me that when you help one person, you make the whole world a little bit better." I think she was right. As the evening came to a close, Travis reflected on the incredible journey that had begun with a crumpled letter in a parking lot. Madison's story had touched millions of people around the world, inspiring countless acts of kindness and generosity. The foundation that bore her name would continue to grow and help families for years to come. But perhaps most importantly, Madison herself had grown into a confident, articulate young advocate who understood the power of speaking up for those who needed help. She had learned that even the smallest voice could create the biggest changes, and that courage often came in unexpected packages. Sarah Patterson, now in remission and working part-time for the foundation, watched her daughter with tears of pride in her eyes. The little girl who had once written a desperate letter had become a beacon of hope for families across the country. Travis Kelce had found his true calling, not on a football field, but in the parking lot where a child's discarded letter had changed everything. The game of football had made him famous, but Madison Patterson had made him truly successful. The letter that was supposed to end up in the trash had instead become the foundation for a legacy that would impact generations. And it all started with an 8-year-old girl who refused to give up hope, even when her letter was thrown away. 1 year later, Travis Kelce would look back on that cold December morning as the moment his real life began. Not his football career, not his fame, not his fortune, but his purpose. Madison Patterson had taught him that true greatness was not measured in touchdowns or championships, but in the number of lives you touch and the hope you bring to those who need it most. The Madison Patterson Foundation continues to operate in over 100 cities across the United States, having helped more than 10,000 families navigate medical crises while keeping their children's dreams alive. Madison herself, now 9 years old, serves as the foundation's youngest ambassador, traveling to schools and community centers to encourage other children to speak up when their families need help. And Sarah Patterson, cancer-free and stronger than ever, works full-time as the Foundation's executive director, ensuring that no family ever has to face a medical crisis alone again. The letter that changed everything is now framed in the Foundation's headquarters in Kansas City, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful messages come from the smallest voices, and that hope can be found in the most unexpected places, even in a parking lot dumpster on a cold December morning. This is the story of how one discarded letter became a movement, how one little girl's courage changed the world, and how Travis Kelce learned that his greatest catches would never happen on a football field, but in the moments when he caught families as they were falling and helped them find their way back to hope.